When you yell at your cat, do you actually know what's happening inside their mind? Look, it happens. Maybe they knock something off the counter or scratch the couch for the 100th time. But here's what most owners never realise. Your cat isn't hearing a correction, they're hearing a threat. And if you keep doing it, which most owners do without thinking twice, you might be quietly breaking something in your cat that doesn't come back easily. And before you click away thinking, I don't yell that much, stay with me for a second. It doesn't have to be screaming. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A sharp hey, a loud clap, a frustrated sigh, followed by a raised voice, your cat is registering all of it the same way. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in their body, in their memory, and in your relationship every single time that happens. And more importantly, you're going to know exactly what to do instead, starting today. Let's start with what your voice actually sounds like to them. 1. Your voice sounds like a predator to them. Have you ever wondered why your cat bolts out of the room the second you raise your voice, even when you're not yelling at them? Here's something most people don't think about. Cats can hear frequencies up to 64,000 Hz. That's nearly 3 times the upper range of human hearing. Their ears evolved to pick up the faintest ultrasonic squeak of a rodent moving through grass. So when you suddenly raise your voice in a quiet room, you're not just being loud to them, you're being overwhelmingly loud. What feels like a firm no to you can hit their ears like a shockwave they weren't built to handle in close range. Now think about this from a pure survival standpoint. Cats are both predator and prey in the wild. They hunt small animals, but they're also hunted by larger ones. That means their nervous system is wired to treat sudden, loud, unpredictable noise as a potential danger signal first, and figure out the details later. A sudden human shout doesn't get filed under my owner is annoyed. It gets filed under something dangerous just happened in my territory. Their pupils dilate, their ears flatten or rotate toward the sound, their body drops slightly, ready to flee. That's not stubbornness, that's biology. And here's where it gets worse. Cats don't understand punishment the way dogs sometimes appear to, and even that understanding in dogs is often overstated. Veterinary behaviourists have been clear about this for years. When you yell, your cat doesn't connect your anger to the thing they just did. They just know that you, the person they live with, are suddenly a source of something scary. The behaviour doesn't get corrected. The trust gets damaged. Research discussed by veterinary sources like PetMD has shown that cats exposed to harsh vocal tones and anger in the household develop heightened anxiety and confusion. They don't learn what they did wrong. They learn that their environment isn't safe. And that feeling doesn't stay in one moment, it lingers. Here's a small detail most people miss entirely. Cats are extremely sensitive to context and timing. If you yell at your cat 30 seconds after they jumped off the counter, in their mind those two events are not connected at all. To them, it looks like this. They were walking across the room, minding their own business, and suddenly the giant they live with made a terrifying noise for no reason. That's the actual experience from their side. There is no I got caught. There is only something scary just happened near me. Now what makes this even more important is something we're going to get to toward the end of this video. Because yelling doesn't just scare your cat in the moment, it changes something in how they remember you, and most owners have no idea that's even happening. 2. The invisible wall it builds between you two. Have you ever noticed your cat sitting across the room watching you, but never actually coming closer? Most owners chalk this up to personality. Oh, they're just independent. But here's what a lot of people miss. If your cat used to greet you at the door, used to curl up next to you on the couch, used to slow blink at you from across the room, and now they don't, something changed. And it probably wasn't their personality. Cats build trust through repetition. Every calm interaction, every gentle voice, every predictable moment reinforces the same message. You're safe. But yelling does the opposite. It introduces unpredictability, And for a cat, unpredictability is the single fastest way to destroy a bond. Think about it from their perspective. They can't ask you what's wrong. They can't understand that you had a rough day at work, or that you didn't mean it. All they experience is this. One moment everything was fine, and the next the loudest thing in the room was pointed directly at them. When that happens enough times, they make a quiet decision. They stop approaching. They stop initiating. They still live in your house, but emotionally they've moved out. Veterinary behaviourists describe this as learned avoidance. Your cat isn't being cold or stubborn, they're protecting themselves. And the heartbreaking part is that most owners don't even notice it's happening, because the change is so gradual. One less head bump here, one fewer slow blink there, until one day you realise your cat barely interacts with you anymore, and you can't pinpoint when it started. Let's break down what that gradual withdrawal actually looks like, step by step, because once you can recognise the early signs, you can stop the slide before it becomes permanent. Stage 1 is hesitation. Your cat still approaches you, but a little slower than before. They pause at the edge of the room and watch your body language before coming closer. This is the very first sign that trust has taken a hit, and it's also the easiest stage to reverse. Stage 2 is selective avoidance. Your cat still interacts with other members of the household normally, but specifically changes their behaviour around the person who yells most often. This is a critical clue. If your cat is affectionate with your partner or your kids, but tenses up around you specifically, that's not coincidence. That's a direct emotional response to a specific person. Stage 3 is space claiming. Your cat starts spending more time in rooms you don't frequent, under furniture, or in high-up spots that are harder for you to reach. This isn't about temperature or comfort anymore. It's about distance. Cats that feel unsafe instinctively seek out vertical or hidden spaces, because in the wild, height and concealment both equal safety. Stage 4, the one most owners only notice once it's already happened, is full withdrawal. Greetings stop. Lap time stops. The cat becomes what people describe as more independent, when in reality, they've simply concluded that closeness isn't safe anymore. The good news, and we'll come back to this, is that this entire process can run in reverse, but it requires you to notice which stage you're in, because the longer it goes unaddressed, the more consistency it takes to undo. And hey, if this is hitting different right now, hit like and subscribe so we can share this with more cat owners who deserve to know what their voice actually sounds like on the other side of those ears. 3. The body keeps the score. Yes, even for cats. Did you know your cat can look completely fine on the outside and still be falling apart on the inside? Most people think stress in cats looks dramatic. Hissing, hiding, running away. And sure, sometimes it does. But chronic stress, the kind that builds up from repeated yelling over weeks and months, often shows up in ways you'd never connect back to your voice. It starts small. Maybe they stop eating as much. Maybe they stop over-grooming one spot on their belly until the fur thins out. Maybe they start missing the litter box even though nothing else in the house has changed. These aren't random quirks. These are stress responses, and veterinary behaviourists have documented them again and again in cats living in unpredictable or tense environments. Here's the science behind it. When a cat experiences repeated stress, their body releases cortisol, the same stress hormone humans produce. In small doses, cortisol is normal. It helps them react to real danger. But when the stress doesn't stop, when the yelling keeps happening, and the environment never feels settled, cortisol stays elevated. And that's when things start breaking down. Chronic cortisol elevation in cats has been linked to weakened immune function, digestive issues, and even feline idiopathic cystitis, a painful urinary condition that veterinarians increasingly connect to emotional stress rather than infection. Your cat isn't acting out. Their body is responding to an environment that never lets them fully relax. Let's go a little deeper into what that actually feels like for them, because this part rarely gets explained. A cat living under chronic stress is essentially stuck in a low-grade version of fight or flight, all day, every day. Their muscles stay slightly tenser than they should be. Their digestion slows down because blood flow gets prioritized toward emergency readiness instead of normal bodily functions. Their sleep, which for a healthy cat usually totals 12 to 16 hours of a mix of deep and light rest, becomes shallower and more interrupted, because part of their brain is always listening for the next loud sound. Over time, this constant low hum of alertness wears down systems you wouldn't expect. Some cats develop skin issues from excessive grooming, a behaviour vets call psychogenic alopecia, where the cat literally licks the fur off patches of their own body as a self-soothing mechanism, the feline equivalent of a person picking at their skin or biting their nails under stress. Other cats swing the opposite direction and undergroom, leading to a dull, greasy or matted coat, because grooming itself requires a baseline sense of safety that they no longer have. Appetite changes are another huge tell. Some stressed cats eat less and lose weight gradually. Others develop what looks like overeating, using food as one of the few predictable, controllable comforts left in their environment. Either pattern, a sudden drop or a sudden spike in how much your cat eats, deserves attention, especially if it lines up with a period of more tension in the house. And then there's the litter box, which is often the loudest signal of all, even though it has nothing to do with the box itself. Cats are creatures of routine, and the litter box is one of the most routine-dependent behaviours they have. When a cat who has never had accidents suddenly starts avoiding the box, the very first thing a good vet will check is medical causes. But once those are ruled out, the next question is always about the emotional environment. Is there tension in the home? Has something changed in the daily rhythm? Has the cat's sense of safety shifted? Here's the tricky part, and it's the part that traps so many well-meaning owners. They treat the symptoms. They switch the food. They change the litter. They take their cat to the vet and run tests, sometimes expensive ones, looking for a physical cause. And sometimes there is one, which is exactly why a vet visit always matters first. But if the root cause is a home that feels emotionally unsafe, no amount of diet changes, litter swaps, or supplements will fix what's really going on underneath. 4. What to do instead. The reset that actually works. What if the most effective way to correct your cat had nothing to do with your voice at all? Most owners yell because they don't know what else to do. The cat knocks something over, scratches the furniture, bites a cord, and in that moment, raising your voice feels like the only tool you have. But here's the thing. Yelling was never a tool. It was always just a reaction, and once you replace it with something that actually works, you'll wonder why you ever thought volume was the answer. The first shift is understanding that cats don't respond to punishment. They respond to environment. If your cat keeps jumping on the counter, the solution isn't a louder no. It's making the counter less appealing and giving them a better option. A tall cat tree near the kitchen window, a shelf they're allowed to climb. When the alternative is more interesting than the thing you don't want them doing, the problem solves itself without a single word. The second shift is your voice. You don't have to go silent. In fact, talking to your cat is one of the best things you can do for your bond. But it's not about what you say, it's about how you sound. Cats are incredibly responsive to vocal tone. A low, slow, steady voice signals calm and safety. A sudden, sharp tone signals danger. You can say, "Don't do that," in a way that redirects without triggering fear. It's the difference between guiding them and scaring them. The third shift is the one most people skip entirely. Rewarding the behaviour you actually want. When your cat uses the scratching post instead of the couch, that's your moment. A treat, a slow blink, a calm good in that low, steady voice. Cats repeat behaviours that lead to positive outcomes far more reliably than they avoid behaviours that lead to punishment. This isn't a theory. This is how every reputable veterinary behaviourist approaches feline behaviour modification. Now let's add a fourth shift, because there's one piece most advice skips completely, and it's arguably the most important one. managing your own reaction in the heat of the moment, before it ever becomes a yell. Cats are masters at reading body tension, before sound even happens. Your shoulders rising, your breath catching, the speed at which you stand up. Your cat picks up on all of it half a second before you open your mouth. That half second is actually your opportunity. If you can catch yourself in that gap, the moment your frustration spikes, but before the sound comes out, you can redirect the whole interaction. A simple trick that behaviourists recommend: the moment you feel that spike, physically step back before you speak. Even one step. It interrupts the automatic reaction, gives your nervous system half a second to catch up with your emotions, and almost always softens whatever comes out of your mouth next. It sounds small, but consistency here is what actually rewires the pattern, both in your cat's behaviour and in your own habit of reacting. A fifth shift, and this one is about prevention rather than reaction. Cat-proofing before the moment happens, instead of correcting after. If your cat keeps knocking things off a shelf, ask yourself honestly whether that shelf needed to be a temptation in the first place. If they keep going for a particular chord, was there a way to tuck it away or cover it before it became a daily standoff? A huge percentage of bad behaviour that triggers yelling isn't actually misbehaviour at all. It's a cat being a cat in an environment that wasn't set up with their instincts in mind. Fixing the environment removes the trigger for your frustration before it even has a chance to build. And a sixth shift worth mentioning: giving your cat predictable daily structure. Feeding times, play times, and quiet times that happen at roughly the same point in the day, every day. Cats that know what's coming next are calmer cats overall, and calmer cats are far less likely to do the kind of frantic, attention-seeking, or destructive behaviour that tends to trigger yelling in the first place. Consistency isn't just good for rebuilding trust after a mistake, it actually prevents most of the situations that lead to yelling to begin with. And if you're sitting there thinking, but what about the damage I've already done? Don't worry. That's exactly what we're getting to next. 5. The thing they never forget. Do you know what your cat remembers most about you? It's not the treats, it's not the toys, it's how you made them feel when things got tense. This is the part I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and it's the one that changes everything once you understand it. Cats don't process memory the way we do. They don't replay conversations or hold grudges over specific events, but what they do hold on to deeply is emotional association. And that's actually worse. Your cat doesn't remember that you yelled at them on a Tuesday night because they knocked over a glass. What they remember is the feeling, the spike in their chest, the sound that filled the room, and most importantly, who it came from. Over time, those emotional memories stack. And they don't stack in a way that your cat can sort through and rationalise. They stack in a way that quietly reshapes how your cat feels every time you walk into the room. Researchers in animal cognition have found that cats form long-term associations between people and emotional experiences. A cat who has been repeatedly startled or frightened by someone doesn't just avoid the behaviour that caused it. They avoid the person, not out of spite, out of self-preservation. Their brain has categorised you, not as a threat in one moment, but as someone who is emotionally unpredictable. And for a cat, unpredictable and unsafe mean the same thing. But here's the part that makes all of this worth hearing. That system works both ways. The same emotional memory that records fear also records safety. Every time you speak softly, every time you sit near them without demanding their attention, every time you let them come to you instead of reaching for them, you're writing over the old record, not erasing it, but building something stronger on top of it. Cats don't forgive the way we understand forgiveness, but they do update, they do recalibrate, and if you give them enough consistent evidence that you've changed, they will slowly, on their own terms, start to come back. 6. What rebuilding actually looks like, day by day. Now that you understand why this happens, let's talk about what the actual process of repair looks like. Because be patient isn't a real plan, and you deserve a real plan. In the first week or two, your only goal is to remove every possible trigger for a raised voice. That doesn't mean ignoring bad behaviour, it means catching yourself before the volume rises, every single time, even if that means simply walking away from a frustrating moment instead of reacting to it. This is the foundation everything else is built on. You cannot rebuild trust while the thing that broke it is still happening. In the following weeks, start stacking small positive moments deliberately. Not forced cuddling, not chasing them down for affection, but creating low-pressure opportunities for your cat to choose you. Sitting quietly in the same room while they're nearby. Using treats during calm, ordinary moments, not just as bribes for good behaviour. Letting them approach the hand, instead of the hand approaching them. You'll likely notice the stages we talked about earlier reversing in roughly the opposite order they appeared. Full withdrawal softens into space claiming. Space claiming softens into selective avoidance. Selective avoidance softens into hesitation. And hesitation, given enough consistent calm repetition, softens into the cat choosing to come closer again, on their own terms, in their own time. If this video helped you see your cat a little differently, let us know in the comments which sign you recognised first, and subscribe for more videos that actually explain what's going on inside your cat's mind, instead of just telling you what to do.